In the last 12 months, my team and I have generated over 50 million impressions through LinkedIn. And of course, it was not by luck. It's because we follow a step-by-step process to write posts that people love and build authority, but also generate thousands of impressions every single time. And the right content will help you reach millions of people every year, build your influence, and grow your business. And in this video, I'll break down the exact formula that I teach my clients so that they can write viral and high-converting content that puts them in the top 1% of leaders in their niche. And I know this works because I've been creating content on LinkedIn for 5 years. I've generated millions of impressions myself, and I've helped over 350 entrepreneurs to do the same. One thing I do know is that this opportunity is not going to be this good forever. And if you've been spending hours writing posts that only get a few likes, you have been wasting the biggest opportunity you have. LinkedIn is the #1 lead generation tool for business, and soon everyone will be doing this. But if you can get ahead before that happens, you will always have the upper hand on your competitors. Let me take you through the only content strategy you will ever need to win on LinkedIn. We use it for every single one of our clients. How to write viral content and my secrets for increasing your visibility, authority, and credibility. And at the end of this video, I'll even share my 3 biggest algorithm hacks so you can instantly start driving more engagement on your content. Look, this is the exact process, and you can see some of the evidence here of posts I've written that have had hundreds of thousands of impressions. But it's not only this, sure, the impressions are great, but this is also driving qualified appointments into me and my team's calendars every single week. And as I said, there is a very simple strategy that we use to do this. And this is the strategy we use with all of our clients. It works every single time, and it is so simple that you can just pick it up and apply it to your business straight away. It looks like this. So if we think about it logically, there are only ever 3 things we need to do with our content. We need to get in front of new people, so you need to make strangers aware you exist. This is the big thing a lot of people forget. It's that the very first step for someone becoming a client or booking you to speak or hiring you is they need to know you exist. You need to have their attention. They can't hire you, they can't book you to speak, they can't work with you if they don't know who you are, if they don't know you exist. So the #1 step in our content is we just need to get in front of new people. We just need to build attention. And we do that through what we call growth content. Now, growth content is typically more general in nature. It's very easy to consume. Remember, you're reaching strangers here, so they're not going to spend hours of their day or even minutes of their day reading content from a stranger who they don't know and they don't trust. So we need to make it very easy for them to consume. We need to make it very low stakes. They need to be able to understand and get some value from it in seconds. Once we then get them to become aware of who we are, we of course need to build trust with them. Think about it. You know hundreds or thousands of people, but you're not ready and willing to buy from every single one of them right now because you don't trust all of them. So the second step is getting that pool of people that knows who you are to trust you. And that's what we do through what we call authority-based content. So our authority-based content is a little bit more in depth than our growth-based content. These people already know who we are, so we can go a little bit further. We can provide a little bit more detail, and they will actually read that content or consume that content. But really, it needs to demonstrate expertise and show your credibility. Really, this is all about proving that you know your products, you know your service, you know your clients, your industry inside out. So you want to be sharing a lot of value, a lot of step-by-step frameworks, models, processes that you use to make people feel that when they work with you, results are almost inevitable. And that's going to build an obscene amount of trust with your audience, and you're actually going to beat all of your competitors on that trust competition. Trust, by the way, is the single biggest factor in someone deciding whether they should work with you or not. And the final part of this process is we just need to turn that pool of people that already knows who you are and already trusts you into opportunities, leads, clients, whatever that conversion event might be for you. Sure, you might build lots of attention and generate a lot of trust with your audience, but if you don't actually provide opportunities for them to buy, you'd be surprised not many people actually will. So we've got to provide opportunities for them to further their relationship with you. That could be accessing a lead magnet, it could be attending a live training, it could be booking in a call with you or filling in an application form. And we do this through what we call conversion-based content. Conversion-based content is going to be things like case studies, testimonials, or even sharing lead magnets. And those are the only 3 things that you've ever got to do. You've got to get in front of new people, you've got to build trust with those people, and you've got to convert those connections into clients. And this works very much like a traditional marketing funnel would, right? At the top of this, we've got to get people into our networks. We've got to get strangers to know we exist. A proportion of them will then be good fits to work with us, and we want to build trust with those people. And then we've got to convert people into this conversion stage where they're more willing to buy. And that's how we actually generate dollar signs and actual revenue off the back of the content we publish. We're not just stuck in this world where we're chasing likes and sure, getting loads and and loads of impressions, but not actually turning any of it into meaningful opportunities. And as I said, that's exactly how I've been able to generate posts that get hundreds of thousands of impressions at times, but also book qualified leads into me and my team's calendar every single week. And typically we'll generate about 10 to 20 of these from LinkedIn every single week. And there are a few reasons why I'm able to do this so effectively and actually generate hundreds of thousands of views plus on some of my posts. It's because in every single post I give people 4 reasons. I give people a reason to read. So the very first thing you need to give people is a reason to read. If you think about the mindset people are in when they're scrolling through LinkedIn, they're probably very distracted. Maybe they've just got to their office or they're on the commute to work. They're probably responding to emails and Slack messages and Teams messages. They've got loads and loads of stimuli coming in. They're distracted. There might be things going on in their environment. Your audience are very, very distracted all the time, and their attention spans are so limited. And they won't give that valuable attention that they have, very limited attention they have to you, unless you give them a reason to actually consume the content. So the very first thing you have to do is give people a reason to read in the first place. And the way you do that is through either your hook or the angle of the post. So the angle of the post is the kind of approach that you're taking to that topic. Is it particularly contrarian? Are you sharing something that maybe is polarizing? Have you got an unexpected take on something? That's the angle through which you're approaching this piece of content with. The hook is the first 1 to 2 lines of the post on LinkedIn. And you need to make sure the hook instantly grabs attention. It tells people exactly what they're going to get out of the post and creates a level of curiosity where they feel like they have to click that see more button and read the rest of the post. So the very first thing you've got to do is give people a reason to read. If you don't do this, everything else in your post is pointless. You might as well have not written it. So the first 2 lines are essential for hooking people in. I then give them a reason to trust me. The thing is on LinkedIn is more and more people are posting content every single week. And it's still a fraction of people on LinkedIn which post. It's like 1-2%, which is why this opportunity is so huge. But that number is going to start doubling every single year. And the volume of content on LinkedIn is only increasing. And that means that people are a little bit skeptical. They don't know who to trust anymore. So the second thing we've got to give people a reason to is a reason to trust us. A reason to trust us is evidence that we have lived experience of the thing we're talking about, right? So for example, at the start of this video, I'll be transparent. I told you that I'd worked with 350 personal brands. And the reason I said that is because, if someone's worked with 350 personal brands, they're probably quite good at personal branding. I'm at least qualified to talk about personal branding. I'm not qualified to give life advice to 40-year-olds. Right? But you would trust me for advice on building your personal brand on LinkedIn. You wouldn't trust me to give life advice to you if you were 40. Right? So you have to give people a reason to trust you, a reason why you're qualified to speak on this particular subject. And this comes from proof or credibility. So what proof do you have that you are worth listening to? Have you worked with a certain number of clients? Have you achieved a certain level of results? What is the cold hard evidence that people should listen to you? And if you include this in your content, you're going to stand out from everyone else in your industry that either doesn't have this proof or doesn't know they need to be using it. Once you've included a reason to trust you, you of course want people to remember you. Because it's no good creating a piece of content that maybe is interesting to someone once, but they don't remember that piece. They get distracted by an email or a call that comes in or a WhatsApp message. And then they forget about you, they scroll on and they never consume a piece of your content ever again. That is a lost opportunity. Actually, you want to give people a reason to remember you so that the next time you post, they realize, the last time they posted it was really valuable. Maybe I should consume this content as well. So a reason to remember comes from having a really short, snappy takeaway at the end of your content. Okay, so we call this the takeaway. And your takeaway should tell them what you've told them in the quickest, sharpest, snappiest way possible. Sometimes we call this the mic drop moment. So imagine you've just given a talk on stage and you've delivered this amazing talk, and at the end you finish with the final 2 lines and you give the kind of really, really catchy final takeaway that you want people to remember, and then you drop the mic and you walk off stage and everyone applauds and everyone remembers that moment. You want the final part of your post to be that memorable. Shortest, snappiest, most memorable way to sum up what you have just told them. And that's going to leave people, when they scroll on, they're going to leave with you in the back of their minds. Next time you post a piece of content, they're instantly going to consume it. And the final thing is we need a reason to engage. And I'll explain how the LinkedIn algorithm works very shortly. But really it's engagement driven. So the more we can get people to engage, the more people are going to see our content. But again, if we don't give people a reason or an opportunity to engage, they will just scroll past. Even if they found the post engaging and interesting, they might just scroll past if we don't tell them what to do next. So we want to prompt them to have a conversation in the comments with us. And that could be done by asking them a question, or it could be done by encouraging them to share their thoughts. We've got to create conversation in the comments of our content if we want to really grow in the algorithm. So this is done through things like questions and call to actions. And as I said, the way the LinkedIn algorithm works is very engagement driven. And this is exactly what you've got to understand if you want to work with the algorithm rather than feeling like the algorithm is constantly working against you. So the way the algorithm works is this. When you post a piece of content, it goes through an initial spam filter. Now that spam filter is typically automated, so it's like an AI spam filter that will decide whether your content is actually good content, first of all, or whether it meets certain spam criteria. It will look at some of the words you're using, if there are certain swear words, for example, aggressive words. If it's clear discrimination, obviously you're going to get banned and the post is not going to be seen by many people. So, I mean, I don't know why you would do that anyway. So it'll go through this initial filter. But then if it clears that filter, it's going to be displayed to your audience. And this is where the engagement signals start to kick in. If the filter is unsure, it will go through a human review first, but then it still comes to this place where it is displaying to your audience, whether that's straight through the spam filter or whether it's through this human review. What LinkedIn's algorithm will do is then it will monitor for engagement signals. And this is where your post is like make or break, right? This is where we have to win in the algorithm. By monitoring engagement signals, what LinkedIn typically means is it means likes, of course, it means comments, and it means reposts, but it also means dwell time, so how long someone spends on the post, how long someone's on the piece of content that you've created. And these are weighted differently. So a like, for example, is probably the least meaningful. It has the least impact on the score of your piece of content in the algorithm. Comments have a relatively strong impact, and reposts have the strongest, but they tend to be less common. So things like comments are a really good one that we want to be optimizing for. It's hard to get lots and lots of reposts. That is the holy grail of engagement. But really the one you want to be optimizing for is comments. That's going to be the main driver of a lot of your performance. And it will use these 3-4 things to monitor how engaging the piece of content is. And bear in mind what LinkedIn wants out of this, right? This is the insider scoop on LinkedIn. No surprises, LinkedIn wants to make money, right? LinkedIn is a business and they are in the business of making money. LinkedIn makes money largely through having advertisers pay to have content on the platform. So the amount of money LinkedIn makes is directly proportional to how many people are seeing the ads on the platform. So what does LinkedIn want? It wants more people spending more time on the platform. That means if you can help LinkedIn make more money, they're going to like you and your content's going to perform really well in the algorithm. What that means is if you can keep people on the platform and you can give people a good experience on the platform that they will keep returning for, LinkedIn is going to favor your content. That's why engagement is so important. So based on these engagement signals, you will then go through a virality moderation filter. LinkedIn will decide how viral or how high in virality potential your content is. If it's detected as viral, there may be another human review, and then this process continues. It gets shown to more people outside of your immediate network, and it repeats the process. It monitors for engagement signals, and it's this constant cycle of showing to more people, monitoring for engagement, showing to more people, monitoring for engagement, and so on. And that's why the engagement is so important, and we've got to give people a reason to actually engage in our content. Now that we know that, what types of content are going to perform particularly well? Well, there's a number of different types of content you can publish on LinkedIn. You can publish text-based, video, you can publish images, even carousels. You can also publish articles and newsletters. Now, I've seen great performance across text, video, image, and carousel. Generally, image-based content at the time of recording performs the best. This will change as LinkedIn evolves as a platform, but generally, image-based content performs the best. Articles and newsletters are the only things I would say avoid at the moment because they just don't get the traction or reach that you should be getting. You want native feed content, usually paired with some sort of creative. So whether that's a video, an image, or a carousel. I'm actually going to break down some of the posts that I've shared and show you some of these key components so you can see how this works in practice. So let's break down this one here. Right? So this is a piece of content I've published. Performed reasonably well. What do we get? 87,000 impressions on this one, which is a pretty good performing post. You can see 710 reactions, 182 comments, and 45 reposts. So the performance on this is pretty good. I'll show you exactly why this is the case. Now, the first thing that hooks people into this post, remember the number one thing we've got to have is a hook, is this common advice. So this here is common advice that people hear on LinkedIn. Everyone is telling you to just post. I actually think that's terrible advice, right? So the angle of this post is contrarian. It's reframing a contrarian, it's reframing a common opinion that people have. And that's why it picks up initial engagement, because there's a good angle and there's a hook that draws people in because they see this constant advice that they're getting. I then reframe their thinking. I say, here's what most people don't realize, including a number in this section, even though actually it's pretty trivial. I've just kind of estimated this number. It hooks people in because they see the number, it captures their attention, they want to know what 80% of people don't realize. And I'm then essentially breaking down some of the false beliefs that they have. Right, so I'm addressing some of the things they've been conditioned to teach. This is almost like a pattern interrupt in the general narrative that is consistent on LinkedIn, which is that you should just start posting. I'm saying the opposite. That's why people are hooked in. I then give people the proven ways to build a personal brand, right? And you can see this is very easy to digest. It's signposted. I've got clear headings here. So high authority, high effort, low authority, low effort, high authority, lower effort. It's really clear to see the key sections of this post. And there's little bullet point takeaways that people can learn from. This makes it really easy for people to digest and understand the point of the post without having to put loads and loads of effort into reading it. It shouldn't feel like they're reading an essay. It should feel like they're reading almost like a text or a bullet point summary. Really big part of why this post has performed so well, though, is because of the creative. So the creative is firstly eye-catching, but also it's the kind of thing that people will stop on and they'll spend a lot of time digesting it. They'll want to read each of these. They'll want to understand where they fit on this continuum. So the dwell time for this post will be really, really high as people are actually understanding the creative. It's also got a really strong takeaway, so you can see the takeaway here. Visibility gets attention, authority turns it into opportunity. That's something that someone can just remember and take away. They don't necessarily have had to have read the whole post. They could just read those 2 lines. And sure, they won't get as much value, but they still get this nugget, this takeaway that they can use. And that's going to be memorable. People are going to remember that next time they see my content. One thing you may realize from this as well is that the creative is complementary to the text. So the text and the creative go together. They also make sense on their own. So if I took the creative out, you can see the post here. It still makes sense on its own. It still adds value in and of itself. You don't necessarily need the creative. Similarly, if we just look at the creative, you can also get some value from that without reading the text. So both of them make sense on their own, but when you pair them together, they're complementary and they make even more sense. They add even more value. So you want your creative to always complement the copy. And probably the number one reason why this post and all my others do so well is because of the infinite loop of curiosity. And this is like the principal level of understanding here. If you understand this principle, you will understand how to create viral content on LinkedIn and on any other channel for the rest of your life. So I recommend you really pay attention to this. In the human brain, we don't like unanswered questions. We don't like not knowing. It creates this dissonance that is uncomfortable for us. So when we have questions, it creates this natural curiosity that we have to solve. We want to constantly solve our curiosity. And the infinite loop of curiosity leverages that to constantly create these loops that people feel like they have to solve, and then it opens another loop. All right, so what we do in our content is we create these questions in people's mind where they're left wondering, what next, or how do I do this? We then answer that, we give them what they want, but in doing so, we open another curiosity loop. And we want to repeat this process over and over and over again in our content. It's all about opening loops and closing loops. And if you can constantly open a curiosity loop in someone's brain and then close it and reopen another, you are going to become magnetic. People are going to be hooked on your content and they're going to be stuck reading every single post and hanging on your every word. So if you can understand that, you're going to be able to create really high quality content every single time. And actually, we've got a formula for doing this that you can just pick up and copy. And I've talked through some of these principles today, but this is a formula that you can just save and start using tomorrow to make things really easy. So this is a 7-step formula. The first thing is you want to find the angle. As I said before, great angles are typically contrarian, surprising, unexpected. The biggest thing is that they create curiosity. So they need to be curiosity inducing. You then want to hook in the first 1 to 2 lines. Those are the 2 most important lines of your post, as we've discussed before that see more button. If you can't get people to click that see more button, there's no way that they're going to actually get any value from the post. And everything else you've written or everything you've said is pointless. There are 2 ways to do this. For story-based content, you can use cliffhangers. All your favorite authors and TV producers do this. Or for educational content, you can promise value. So this is the promise of getting a payoff. You're promising to teach them something or solve a problem or help them get a certain result. Throughout the post, once you've hooked people in, you then need to provide digestible value. And there are two elements to this. There's the value element and the digestible element. Both are very, very important. So on the value element, value can come from a number of sources. It doesn't necessarily have to be teaching people something, which is what most people assume. That's education. But it could also be entertainment. It could be a moment of inspiration. It could just be being relatable. I think a better way of framing value is actually utility. What is the use of this post to everyone? And you don't have to change the world every single time. I see a lot of people that think, is that even worth posting? Remember, you don't have to change the world with every single LinkedIn post. Even if you're just being a little bit relatable or providing a little nugget of wisdom or making someone laugh, that's absolutely fine for a piece of content. You do not have to change the world in every single post. You do have to offer some level of utility though. The second part of this is making it digestible, right? And this is where a lot of people actually fail. Did you know most Americans, their reading level is at or below a grade 5 level? So you need to be writing at a grade 5 reading level. That translates across the whole population, I'd imagine. I don't think it would be too dissimilar if you surveyed the entire population of the world. I imagine it would still be at about a grade 5 reading level. So you want to use short sentences. You need to make sure you're leveraging white space. That's really key for ensuring that the information is actually digestible and people can consume it. Use frameworks and process because that makes it easier for people to understand in their minds. It makes it easy for the mind to process this information, and it increases the perceived value of what you're sharing. And use lists where appropriate. Again, bullet point lists make it so much easier for the brain to consume and digest and understand what you're saying. You want to then finish with a mic drop takeaway. So having the mic drop takeaway is going to be the thing that people remember. Think about dropping the mic as you walk off stage. What are those final 2 lines that you share? It needs to be really memorable and catchy. You can add in a PS section. So this is a section a lot of people miss. Did you know in emails, a PS section is the second most read part of an email after the subject line? And it's actually similar in LinkedIn posts. It's going to be the last thing you say in a LinkedIn post, and actually people's minds will be drawn to it. Again, it's a bit of a pattern interrupt. Not many people are using this, so people actually aren't used to seeing the PS in a LinkedIn post. And in this section, you can use a call to action, so you can get people to comment. You can just share some extra value, share an extra tip. You can use it to signal authority. You might say something like, I've used the tips that I've shared here to achieve XYZ result. And then you want to add complementary creative. So remember the creative I shared in this post here. It makes sense in and of itself and adds value on its own, but it's even more valuable and makes even more sense when it goes with the text in the post. So you want to make sure you're adding complementary creative. Use it to supplement the copy that you share, but make sure it makes sense on its own. I see a lot of people, they'll create posts where the only thing in the text is like telling people what they're going to tell them in the video. The text and the video need to be valuable in and of themselves, as if someone were just to consume one of them. And that is the formula for writing viral posts every single time. And there are 3 algorithm hacks that you can layer on top of this to create viral posts every single time. These are the 3 biggest algorithm hacks that I use on all of my content and our clients' content as well. So algorithm hack number 1 is to use an I statement. When I say an I statement, I mean in your hook, start the post by telling people what you have achieved or what you have done or how you do a certain thing. Everyone is creating how-to content, so that might be how to, if we use a personal fitness example, like how to lose 10 pounds in the next 90 days. I don't know if that's reasonable or not. Everyone's using how-to content. If you use how I content, it shows that you have lived experience in doing that thing. So it might be something that you do for clients, something that you've done for yourself. If you can change it into an I statement, people are instantly going to trust you because they see that you have lived experience in doing this thing. Massive trust builder that makes them more likely to consume the rest of the post and therefore like it or save it or even comment on the content. So you want to use an I statement in your content. You also want to respond to all comments on your content, especially in the first hour of publishing, because this is when, remember in LinkedIn's algorithm, they're monitoring for engagement signals. And by responding to comments, you're essentially doubling the number of comments on your post. Let's say you put a piece of content out and 10 people comment on it. If you ignore those, you've got 10 comments, all good. But if you actually go in and respond to every single one of them, you'll then have 20 comments. You've just doubled the number of comments on your post. Even better, if you're furthering the conversation and getting people to reply to your reply, you could even triple or quadruple the number of comments you get on your post. And that's going to triple or quadruple how good LinkedIn's algorithm views your content as. So this is a really easy way to take the same piece of content and get far more views with it. And the third algorithm hack you're going to use is timing of your post. Now, there are a few times where publishing content tends to get the best results. And think about the kind of culture that people have on LinkedIn, the kind of platform it is. It's a professional platform, right? So people are typically using this for work. So times like in the morning when they're just getting into the office before they start their day, maybe at lunchtime, maybe on the evening commute home, those are hot spots for engagement. So you want to make sure you're publishing content around those times, around the time where people are spending the most time on the platform. Publishing a really valuable piece of content at 10 p.m. on a Friday night is probably not going to get the credit you deserve, because firstly, people just aren't on the platform, but also people aren't in the mindset to consume that level of value at that specific time. So the timing of when you publish your content is really important. Sweet spot for me is always in the mornings, as people are getting into their office, maybe they're on their morning commute, they're in that mindset, their minds are fresh, they're ready to consume highly valuable content. That's where I tend to get the best results. So the timing of your content is really useful. And now look, if you use the contents of this video and the process that I've showed you today, you're going to be able to create your own content that generates thousands of views and grows your following. Now, the next thing you should think about though is when you're actually producing content, you're going to be driving hundreds, maybe even thousands of people to your profile every single month. But at the moment, what does your profile say about you? Does it scream authority in your industry? Does it show the credibility you deserve? Is it optimized to convert connections or visitors into opportunities? If not, you really need to optimize your profile. Otherwise, all the effort and the time and attention you've put into creating great content is going to go to waste. Don't worry though, what I've done is I've actually created a complete profile optimization blueprint that will show you how to fully optimize your profile for credibility and conversion step by step, with examples and templates that you can just plug and play into your profile. It's going to save you hours optimizing it and make sure that every single visitor that comes across you sees you as an authority. You create that positive first impression. That's linked in the description if you want to grab it.